R.C. Bhargav, Chairman of Maruti, is with us now to take us through how they see fiscal year 2010. Morning, Mr. Bhargav. Thanks very much for joining in. It will be an interesting year for you. The Nano is launching. Has Maruti taken any kind of a strategic decision on how to counter it with its either 800 or Alto into fiscal year 2010?
No, as we have said on a number of occasions, we do not intend to enter the Nano segment of the market. And we have no intentions of reducing prices of the 800 or the Alto in order to sort of compete on price with the Nano. That's not part of our strategy.
What do you make of it, though, Mr. Bhargava? There's been a lot of talk about how it's going to shake up the passenger vehicle segment, and perhaps Maruti, at least at the 800 end, will have to relook pricing. How would you respond to both those arguments?
Our view is that the Nano will have a different segment from those of the normal car user, and there will be an upgrade to some two-wheeler users to the Nano. The three-wheelers will become a very definite market for the Nano, because I think in all respects the Nano is a superior vehicle in terms of comfort, in terms of drivability to the three-wheeler. And there could be a marginal impact on the sales of the Maruti 800, but not on any of the other cars.
January to March has not been a bad phase for car makers such as yourself, Mr. Bhargav, but the bigger questions lie on whether this pullback or the improvement that you've seen in the current quarter or the previous quarter is sustainable going into the next 2 or 3 quarters. Hero Honda told us yesterday they're not quite certain about that. Are you at Maruti?
We are equally uncertain as to whether this revival which we saw in the last actually 4 months now. December also was a good month because retail sales in December were very, very good. And this quarter, January to March, has been good. The figures for March are to be disclosed only tomorrow, because I think we need today to collect all the data. But it looks like that March was a good month and sales would have gone up compared to March last year. Whether this momentum can be sustained, as you said, for the next 2 or 3 quarters is something which we can't predict. We are hoping that sales in the next 6 months would be equal to or better than last year. And last year was a pretty good first 6 months. So we hope to at least equal that performance this year. But as you say, we can't be certain of what's going to happen, so we are adopting a more flexible approach to our production strategy.
While the Nano may create a different niche for itself, Mr. Bhargav, there have been concerns about what's happening with your own staple segments like the A2 and A3. I believe Hyundai's i10 has made quite a dent. The Desire's coming up in A3. Is it getting more competitive in your own spaces?
Well, it has been competitive for some time, but we have been holding, in fact, slightly increasing our market share in this period which has elapsed. So while there is competition, and we welcome competition, the competition has not, in fact, dented our market share at all.
What is this uncertainty hinging around, Mr. Bhargav, for the next 2 or 3 quarters? I mean, why is it principally that you're saying that January to March momentum may not be sustainable?
The issues, one is, of course, the elections which are coming up. And what kind of climate and sentiment the elections will create and the results of the elections will create, the nature of the government which will be formed, I think could have an impact on the sentiments of people to go ahead and make investments in buying cars. The second area is the entire global scene. If there are no more bad news coming out from the world in terms of the financial markets and banks, I think then that will help to sustain the markets. But if again some serious bits of bad news come out and they possibly affect our banks also, then that would have an adverse impact. And the third factor, of course, would be The export sector is not growing. The IT sector, which is a major segment of our market, we don't know how the IT sector will progress this year. So these are some of the factors which I think we'll have to look at as we go along.
Thank Mr. Bhargava for joining in. That's Maruti. Just need to check on